Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome here to our call tonight. And the topic for our call is the power of your story and how your story can really help a lot of people. So let me go ahead and get the website or the conference call here online going also. And we will get that started here. So we'll go ahead and get the recording for that going. So, okay. Make sure we got audio, because last time we didn't. Alrighty. And if we don't have any audio going on, if you would let us know, that would be great. But if you hear us all fine, that's awesome. So, if we got people online on the phone, it looks like we have some people who've called in also. So, again, I want to welcome you here to our Wednesday night call. It's about your story. Okay, what is your story and the power that your story can have for the people that you tell your story to. So, before I actually get started, I want to turn around and tell you today is my granddaughter's second birthday, and she is 2 years old today. So we were at a birthday party this afternoon or this evening from 5 to 7. So I want to throw a shout out to my granddaughter for her second birthday. So she's one of I think 11 11 grandchildren. So anyways, hey, that's a testament to all my kids and everything. They're doing a great job and with their children and bringing them up and everything. So I guess I've done something right, at least in one area of somebody's life. But what I want to talk to you about is, like I said in the beginning, is the power of your story and the power of being able to tell your story effectively, and the power and how the power of that story, what it was transferred to me about 24 years ago when a friend of mine, I wrote a blog post about this just the other day, and I know I get a lot of people comment on my blog posts, things like that. According to the stats, not a lot of people click through to go to the blog post, but so they don't quite get the whole story. So, but it's the story, was from a friend. It was right after my daughter passed away, and he was a gentleman. He's a good friend. His name is Dean, and he's a business owner here in the community. And it was shortly after, about a week or two after my daughter had passed away in her drowning accident. And what he shared with me, was short. His story was very short, matter of minutes, what he told me. But it was the way he told it and what it meant to me, and the good it did for me at the time. And I realized for him to tell his story and to do what he did for me during my time of need was extremely difficult for him. Okay, it's when we tell our stories and we tell people about our loss, it is hard. It is hard for us to tell our story and to be vocal about it. Some people to this day, I know, with my daughter, they can't really talk about it, and they're not able to tell the story. But the power and the meaning behind the story, for what it meant to me, he could tell that story to 100 people, and every one of those 100 people would get a different meaning from that story. Okay, because it would have a separate meaning, or he would tell that story a particular way for that individual. So in this case, he was a gentleman. He's about 3 or 4 years older than I was. He was married, and he had a child, a son. And they were driving up a state route here just outside of town, and just going along, just like any normal day that probably you or I would just get in the car and drive with the family, with no any concerns, nothing to really, be worried about. And, going down the highway at about 55 miles an hour, and an oncoming truck is coming his way. And he takes evasive action and tries to avoid the oncoming vehicle. And with that oncoming vehicle, hits the driver's side of the car head on. The driver's side of the car sustained, probably 70 to 80% of all the damage to the car. He being on the driver's side. And the one thing I didn't share in the blog post, he was not wearing a seatbelt, of all things. But his wife and child was. He walks away from the accident pretty much unscathed, unharmed, and his wife and his daughter, they died in the accident. And his family was pretty much wiped out, just in an instant. Everything he worked hard for and what he believed in was taken away from him in just a snap of a finger. And I don't know the particulars of the accident, why the truck left the center. I don't know. He didn't share those. Those things weren't important. What he shared with me was he understood how I was feeling. And his story, and I remember exactly my words, what I said to him. I says, Dean, I can't imagine. I mean, my loss is very fresh and very new. He was a couple years, this was about a couple years after or before my daughter passed away, and he had shared that with me, and but his loss was very new and fresh to him, and he really, I guess, put himself out there. He was very vulnerable at the time with me, and I didn't feel alone. I know I'm not saying anything anybody doesn't really understand, or that they don't know, and that is, you feel very alone in a situation like that. The world and everything around me was going in slow motion, and my world was going slow, but everybody else's was just probably flying by me. It was like I didn't really have control of those thoughts and feelings and what I was seeing and hearing. But when he explained his story to me, I felt great heartache for him. I felt sorrow for him. He then told me not to feel sorry for him, that he had learned a lot about life, and at that particular time he was, I think he was engaged to get married, but he is now remarried, and he has 3 children, and a very successful business person in the community and the surrounding areas. And he shared that story with me because it's a story of hope, that he let me know that life, does go on. It does get better. And that was something that I felt that, again, it was very fresh for me and very new at the time, and I didn't believe that there was any hope, or there was nothing, no life, there was nothing going forward. So, so his story was very powerful for me. It helped me get through those early days. It helped me get through some of those times. It wasn't a fix-all type of story. It wasn't, there wasn't answers to my questions and what I was going through. He just planted a seed. He planted a seed with me that was a seed for, it's a tragic loss. I understand how you're feeling. I understand that you feel very alone, and even though you have loved ones and family around you, you're still alone. That they don't fully understand how you feel unless they've been exactly where you are, and even then, your situation's unique. It's nobody feels exactly what you feel. Your love for that person is totally different than somebody else's love, so their grief would be totally different. And so the power of his story, what it did for me was it took away some of that loneliness and that feeling that I had. It allowed me to realize that, maybe there's hope. But I turn around and I question, I don't think it's for me, though. And it was just a couple weeks after my daughter passed away, so it's like, what hope would I have? I mean, and I met other people that shared their story that, of loss that was 20, 30, 40, even 50 years later, and they're still, in some cases, 50 years later, when they lost a child in their 20s, and now these people are in their 60s and 70s explaining their story of their loss. I began to look at their story, but they were very caring, very loving people, because these people, I didn't know them. They sent me cards. They sent me letters. They showed up at the funeral home. They showed up at my place of business. They got my phone number and they called me. And some of them were business people. I had a company out of Atlanta, Georgia that I had a loan with. My daughter's accident made the front paper of the Atlanta newspaper, and they realized that they had a client here in town here, and they looked it up, and it happened to be me. And they called me up and forgave 6 months of my payments and told me not to worry about it, that they would take care of those next 6 months' payments. That they, heard my story and they heard about the accident. So there is a lot of power in your story. And there's a lot of power in it, not just what it can do for other people, but what it can do for you as an individual. Okay? I know a lot of people that can't tell their story, that can't go there, and rightfully so for a lot of people. It's just something that a lot of people just are not ready. The power of your story can really begin to set you free. Okay, I'm sure for Dean, my friend, he was. He told his story, and he became a powerful business person within the community, and he was able to do that, and he was a giving person, a caring person, not only in his community, but with his church and the people and around town, and he was a very successful person. So not only was he a giving person from his heart and from an emotional standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint. So he would be there emotionally and also financially for people, and he shared his story and with the community. And so again, it's a story of hope is really what it was. But the story, as he told me, he says the story allows him to set himself free. It allowed him to begin to look at himself and forgive himself, because that day on that highway, he took evasive action. He realized if he would have went the other way, the truck would have hit the vehicle in a different spot in the car, and the outcome could have been totally different, and everybody could have walked away. And several years later, many years later, he and I talked, and I asked him the question. I says, do you really believe that would have been the case? And I says, there's no way of really knowing if the outcome would have been different. I mean, my story, I didn't have to drop my daughter off there with the babysitter at the pool that day. I could have, I owned my own business. I had the freedom. I could have just stayed there. And, but I don't know if the outcome would be different. Those are those what if things. And, so I don't question that anymore. It doesn't, at this point in time in my life, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. My story is my story, but it's how I tell my story. But the story has allowed to set me free. Okay. It has allowed me to forgive myself. It has allowed me to forgive other people, and to take another look and begin to look at my story, and allows me to see things as they really, really are. Okay? It allows me to be able to look at my situation in my life and be able to tell it to where it can be a guiding light, or it can be hope for somebody else. Okay? I share my story. I attend funerals and viewings. I send cards. I do everything that everybody did for me, and then some. The beauty of it is we have the internet now. So the internet opens up a huge, huge area for, allows me to reach out and, with my condolences. The funeral homes allows you to get on their message boards and receive emails from when people pass away. And I take time every single day to look at these message boards and these messages from the funeral homes, and specifically looking for, because I'm a grieving parent, I look a lot of times for grieving parents have lost children, but also other people too. But if somebody has died young, or before their time possibly, I reach out to them. and through their message board, leaving a comment for them, because I know the stories and the messages I got from complete strangers meant more to me than a lot of the stories and messages I got from people that knew me personally, and because that means somebody went out of their way, they don't even know me, and they went out of their way to do something for me, okay, to allow me to understand I'm not alone, and and they tell me just a little bit about their loss and how long it was, and and I realized that they understood the same thing I understand, that by doing what they're doing, it allows them to set themselves free. Okay, it allows them to not only, it allows them to remember and the love and the caring that they had for their loved one, but at the same time to be able to express how they care to somebody else in their time of need. We all been there. We've been there. We were on the receiving end. We stood there, in the funeral procession. We stood there at the gravesite. For weeks on weeks, we stood there when people were talking to us. We would go out into public and people would talk to us. We've been on the receiving end. So it's time to flip that around and start to give. And the power of your story is the way you can do that. It allows you to see things as they really, really are, too. Because one of the things when I went through my story and really began to peel the layers back in the story, I understood that I told myself so many lies throughout my life that to allow me to cope, I guess, just to get to the point where I can cope with my loss. And so it really allowed me to take another vantage point to begin to look at that a little bit differently. You can really tell your story as you are able to inspire others, okay? You begin to heal, and at the same time, you're doing yourself so much good as you're also going through your healing process. I challenge you to sit down with pen and paper and just write a couple sentences, what life was, and a little bit about your loved one, and to turn around and there's 4 major segments of your story, and one's what we refer to as the call. Okay, we have the call. The call is the initial call, is kind of sets up the characters in the story, which in my story it's me, my family. It's all the way back to when I was 14 years old, and it talks a little bit about that. It kind of sets up the type of person I am, and then it goes into to present day, or the time, what I refer to as the pit. And the pit moment, that's the downfall. That's the date on the calendar. You can point at the calendar I have up here on the wall. I can point on that calendar, and I know the exact date and time that everything happened. It's like seared in my brain. It's there. I don't have to set an alarm clock to know. I don't have to have reminders and post-it notes. It's a date and time that will live forever on your brain and in your heart and your soul. And so that particular moment just like it was yesterday, in regards to how long ago it was. The other thing too is the next step is you go through a searching mode. After the pit moment, and you begin to start searching for things. You're searching for answers. You're searching for the meaning of things. You might even be putting together a cause or a mission. Something, a scholarship fund, or you could be doing a lot of things that can bring about good, that can also bring about change. There may be legal things you're going through, but you're going through a search and going through a particular process that really allows you to, you're searching for something. And in many cases, I know for myself and my story, I didn't know what the hell I was searching for. I was just freaking going in circles, and I didn't have a clue. I thought what I was really searching is because of the type of person I was. I'm an A-type personality. Okay, forget the directions. If I got directions that tell me how to do something, okay, they're out the freaking window. It's like, just give it to me and let me do it. I will go and do it. But here's the thing, with being an A-type personality, I screw up a lot, okay? But I learn quickly. I learn from my lessons. I learn things. So here I am going through the search, and I'm thinking, okay, what I wanted before the accident, before my daughter passed away, what I really wanted was to be in business for myself and have a family business with my wife and children. And that's what I was trying to keep, and that's what I had at the time. And I wanted to keep doing that, and I wanted to do all that, but there was always a piece of the pie that was missing, okay? I kept telling myself, I kept saying, Christmases are never the same. Thanksgiving is never the same. I would tell my friends and say, you don't understand, because every Thanksgiving, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, sitting at the family table at Thanksgiving, no matter how many other children, I said, like I said early in the beginning, tonight, from 5 to 7, I was at my granddaughter's second birthday. Okay, this was my daughter, Brenna, who was born about a year or 2 years after Kelsey died. Okay, she never knew her sister. Okay, my granddaughter never knew her aunt. Okay, she'll hear stories about her, but she never knew her. So every Thanksgiving, this is what I was telling myself early on in my grieving process, that I will never have a Thanksgiving. It's like I pictured a kitchen table, a dining room table, with everybody and all my children sitting around, and at that time, all my unborn children and unborn grandchildren, because I had none, and I pictured an empty chair. I pictured maybe empty 2 chairs, maybe 3, 4, 5 chairs. That would be a chair for her, a chair for her husband, a chair for her children, or maybe several of her children. And there's a space and a gap. And that's how I told my story in the beginning. I told my story. I says, you don't understand. I have to go through this the rest of my life. I have to look at every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every holiday where there's going to be a space at this kitchen table or dining room table that nobody's going to be there. But I began to look at that story, and I thought to myself, how is that story helping me? That story does not help me one bit. How's that story help those people understand? That story does not help them one bit. So as I begin to learn over 20-some years of being lost in the fog and on this search for something, and on this search as I'm searching for really the keys to my success, the keys to the answers, the keys that will unlock the doors to what I was searching for. And realistically, there was none. There are no keys. There are no doors. There are nothing. It's all there in front of you. I'm a person of faith, and God will open doors when you are ready for those doors to be open. Okay? Took over 20 years for those doors to open, because those first 20 years was like being in school. I was being in school because I was learning. I was like a sponge, even though who would want to be that sponge, right? Why would you want to learn this stuff? We didn't ask for it, but it was given to us. So it's like, what do I do with that? So I began to craft a different story, because that part of the story was not conducive to my healing, and it wasn't conducive for other people that may be going through this process. Okay, because it's really people. My friends would look at me and probably turn around and thank God it's not them, and rightfully so. It's not, it wasn't them, and I wouldn't pray that on anybody. But, just like I said, that, I believe that God will show us the way, and He will open the doors when we are ready to receive the information. I always said, if I could have had somebody teach me this stuff 20 plus years ago, where would I be today? But then again, if somebody would have sat on my front doorstep and told me the things I'm saying here tonight, would I have been in a place to be able to receive it and understand it and utilize it and do it? Okay? I'm not going to say yes. I can't say no. It didn't happen. So, from that standpoint, it just isn't there. So I'm giving you an opportunity to be able to write and tell your story and be able to do that with me. Okay? To be able to impact others. Okay? While at the same time, you're creating a memory for your loved one. And you're also, it's a very therapeutic process to be able to understand a lot about your story, your life, and a little bit of what it might mean and how to explain it. So, because I do believe that, I was on the receiving end for so many years, receiving, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm, my deepest sympathies. I received so much from people. I mean, I received, money. I received this. Love, caring. People came and sat in my house, food for weeks on end. I got a Disney vacation for me and my kids, and several years later, and it was there was so many things that were given to me. So I see this as an opportunity for me to begin to give back, not necessarily to those that gave to me, but again, for me to pass it on. Okay, for me to pass it on. We always hear around the holidays, paying it forward. Going, you hear about people going through Starbucks or McDonald's and paying for the cup of coffee for the guy behind them. Why are they doing that? It's a gesture that, of thankfulness. It's they're grateful or whatever. It's a gesture that they're paying it forward. At the same time, I believe that, I have an opportunity because people did something for me in my time of need, and it was time for me to do something for others. So I developed this program. It's called Empowering Millions. My goal is to empower millions of people, maybe one person at a time. But it's also I need help because I believe that everybody that's been in our shoes at some point in time should have an opportunity to give back. Okay? Now, my ex-wife, she can't do this. It's 24 years later. She can't, go to another child's funeral and talk to those parents. She's not in that place. She can't do it. It's too emotionally hard on her, even 24 years later. And I understand that. But there's so many other things that you can do. A simple card. Like I said, the internet is a place where, go on to the websites of your local, funeral homes. They have, message boards and things, where you can put up your condolences to people and just, thanking them. And you can be anonymous. You don't have to let them know who you are, but just the thoughtfulness. If you think of every person that said something to you in a kind word, what it really meant to you. So it's an opportunity for you to do the same. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for you to be able to impact others and maybe do that through your story. And at the same time, creating a memory, and so that can also live on. And what I say by an opportunity to be able to write with me, okay? I put a few messages out there that if you would like to, write a little bit about your story or tell a little bit about your story, be more than happy to help you craft a story and put it up on my website. Okay, if you don't have a website of your own, you can, and you can share that on your personal Facebook page, and also be able to share that with other people. So it's not like you have to sit here and tell your story 50,000 times. You just tell your story one time, and you just share that. You share that story, and the story of hope, the story of forgiveness, the story of whatever it is that you need to tell, and whoever it needs to be told to, and how it can impact others. It is very therapeutic. Trust me, servanthood is, it takes the focus off you, okay? It takes the focus off you and what you're going through, and it puts it on somebody else. When I'm not focused on myself and I'm thinking about somebody else, my worries, concerns, fears are out the window, right there, out that window. They're gone. I don't have to worry about them. And so from that standpoint, it really allows you to set yourself free. Okay? It allows you to be able to move forward and move on. All right? And so, my question to you is, why wait any longer if you haven't done so yet? Okay? So, maybe you're not at that point in time. Okay? There are stages of grief that people go through, and I think before somebody could probably do some of these things, they need to be in some point of acceptance. And this can help you in so many ways. That not only to mention how many other people it can affect in such a positive way, such as your friends and other family members. It may help them out also. Your spouse, or your children. You can get them involved also, and it's a great testament. It's a great message that of hope and the future and what's really there for everybody. Okay, everybody that would want to know that. So I'm extending an invitation to you if that's what you would like to do. Send me an email at rick@afathersloss.com. Let me know that you would like to write a little bit of a story with me, and I will help you and work with you to help you craft that story a little bit and put it in some type of terms. And it would be your story. It wouldn't be me telling your story. It'd be your story, and you could say it any way you want to say it. Okay. Any parts that you want to say, okay? We can touch on the elements and go as much detail as you want or as little detail as you want. And to be able to do that, and I will post that story on my on my website. I will post that out on, I've got a couple different Facebook pages, and I will send that out to a few other areas. And if you have a cause, you have a mission, scholarship fund, or anything that you have that will help get your message out there, to be able to bring in, scholarship money, or bring things to, or maybe bring attention towards a cause that you're passionate about, a cause, such as, pink, the breast cancer, or heart, or MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or, so many others. I was reading about one today, a Facebook page. It was mothers. There's signs they're putting up in schools, around school grounds, that say, something about drop it. It's a cell phone, okay? It just says, drop it and drive, okay? And so, because somebody's daughter, actually it was this family's mother, was killed by somebody that was texting. Either, I'm not sure, I haven't got the full story. I don't know if she was the one doing the texting, or if the other driver was the one doing the texting. I wasn't quite sure, but that's their message. That's their cause, okay? Out of tragedy can come great things. Out of tragedy and other people's losses and sorrow, that can bring about change and make it a better place. I know when my daughter passed away almost 24 years ago, I said I didn't want her death to be for nothing, okay? At the time, I didn't know what it was going to mean. We did a lot of things in the early stages, and several years of scholarship funds and memorial fund, and raised a lot of money, and such as bowling parties and all kinds of different things that we did. Really creative things with a lot of our friends at the time, and not one of those friends today are in my life. Okay. Can't tell you why, okay? It's not by my choice or theirs. It's just that, our lives went two different directions, and we're not, friends anymore, okay? I sold my business. I'm not a business person in the community. I'm not, what I was before. And so, because of that, things changed, and friendships have changed. And so, there's a reason why people's paths crossed, for even if it's a brief moment in time. And so I ask you just to keep an open mind. And if you're not ready to tell your story, that's fine. That's fine. Continue learning. I hope that what the content that I'm putting out here is relevant. I'm hoping that it's of value to you. If there's something that you would like me to cover on these Wednesday night calls that I haven't covered so far, I've been doing these since the 1st of January, so I think this is my 14th or 15th one now this year. And if it's something, this is the second time I've kind of covered story, but story is such an important part of what I do, because it's the important part to somebody going through the learning process and going through the grieving process, and to begin to peel the layers back and to begin to learn the life lessons that we've learned through our loss, and how, if I'm looking for a cause, or I'm looking for a mission, or a purpose behind it, behind the loss, this is the way I go about finding that purpose, is to be able to peel the layers back in the story. So, send me an email, comment here on the video, or go to A Father's Loss on Facebook, send me a message, go to my website and use the contact form and contact me through afathersloss.com, or simply shoot me an email at rick@afathersloss.com. And then again, heck, if you even want to send me a text message or a phone call, it's 937-508-9388, and let me know. Let me know what you think. Comment below, share this video with family and friends, and because they may also be in a situation, or they may pass it on to somebody that you don't even have any idea that may be hurting. And so in turn, indirectly, you're helping somebody and giving back to them. So don't let it stop here. Don't let it die here. Just like Norman Cousins says, it's a quote that I live by, okay? And it says, death is not the greatest tragedy of all. The greatest tragedy is what dies in us while we live. So it's your story. Don't let your story die inside you. it can help so many people, regardless of what you think. But it's all how you tell it, okay? And it wasn't my story of how I was telling it around the Thanksgiving or Christmas table, okay? That's going to help people. It's a totally different story. Most of you, I think, know my story. If you don't, it's out there. It's out there. It's on my website and everything else. And so, I'm not going to go over all that again with you. But but I'm asking, if you want to write it, we'll sit down together, write it, put it on my website, send it out. You can put it out on your Facebook page. You can send it to whoever you want to send it to. So with that being said, you guys are awesome. I appreciate everybody that was here online, on our conference call online, and who called in on the telephone, and also for all you that were here tonight on the Facebook Live. I really appreciate each and every one of you that come here every Wednesday night to listen to what I have to say and my 2 cents worth, whether or not it's relevant for you or not. But the biggest thing, like I said, you never know who might have a need for whatever it is that I'm saying. And that's the reason why I'm putting it out there. People shared with me over 23 years ago, and it's time for me to carry that on and to share also. And the internet just gives me a total different way of doing it than sending, cards. But, again, I still do the cards, funerals, I do all those things. And the internet just allows me to do it so much more than what I was doing before. So with that, guys, go ahead and sign off here for tonight. It was a little shorter tonight, but I appreciate your time. And, God bless each and every one of you. I pray for each and every one of you. If you ever have any questions, any needs or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here. I receive messages on my computer, my phone all the time, and only time I don't answer messages is probably about 2 o'clock in the morning. But I get up between 4 and 5 every morning, and I go to work. I work right here in this office here in my house, and I'm here and working and talking to people 14 hours a day, easy 14 hours a day, and all various ways, on the phone, text messaging, Facebook Messenger, emailing, all kinds of different ways I've talked to people. So don't hesitate to reach out to me if you've got anything at all. If there's some content or something you think that would be relevant that you would like me to talk about or to share, let me know about it. If it's a book, or if there's something that you have that maybe I haven't touched on that you think would be really good, hey, let's pass it on. Let's get it out to some other people. Let's share. This is a community of people and like-minded people that have a common, denominator. I mean, we all live with grief every day of our life. And so let's not keep what we know inside of us, okay? It's time let's share what we know, and let's share, what works for us. I mean, what works for me may not work for you, but works for you might work for somebody else, and so on and so forth. So with that being said, hey, I've rambled on enough. So, hey, God bless each and every one of you. Much blessings and much love, and we will talk to you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Okay? So you guys are awesome.